All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be in the 147-pound division where a former WBC champion who fought Errol Spence Jr., Danny Garcia, had something to say about what's happening going into the rematch and what his impression was of Errol Spence Jr. before the original fight with Terrence Crawford took place. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be in the 147-pound division because that's what this channel talks about. If you did not know, and a little bit into the video, why I say that is going to become a little bit important. But in this video, we're going to talk about what former unified 140-pound champion Danny Garcia, and one former 147 WBC champion, and a guy that will be fighting for a middleweight title, the WBA middleweight title against Landy Lara, I think before the end of this year, had to say about what happened with the Errol Spence Jr. Terrence Crawford fight. From my understanding, this is the first time that Danny Garcia has said anything, and his insights, I think, were very interesting, and it should be for both sides of the spectrum of people who want to talk about what was happened leading up to the fight and what people think will happen when the second fight takes place. Now, before I get into that, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you are a long-time subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you guys so much for your continued support. I can't tell you how important it really is to the channel. Matty-O, you my guy, thank you so much for your support. Barbara Davis, thank you, guys. Thank you very much, sister. Always love seeing in the channel. This video is going to go out to Blessed365, though, who has not shown up to the channel in a while, but just let you know, still thinking you. Hope you're doing well. But let's get to this, because Danny Garcia gave an interview to Fight Hub, and it was just released yesterday. And he was asked by the host of Fight Hub, Marcus Viega, what did you think about the Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford fight? What was your impressions? And Danny Garcia gave some very interesting information, or very interesting viewpoint. Obviously, he is somebody that has fought Errol Spence Jr. before. He also was somebody that had predicted that Terrence Crawford, would win the fight. And he said that it was in his prediction, he said it was a 50-50 fight, leans for Terrence Crawford to win because he thought Terrence Crawford was more skilled. But you do have the issues with Errol Spence Jr. as far as his strength and his power and all of the other things that took place. And so he said that he was very surprised by the outcome of the fight and how one-sided the fight was, and that he thought, and he used this, he didn't use this phrase, but Marcus Viegas used this phrase in the title of the video, which was that he was damaged. And he said, look, man, what it could have been is like, look, man, he had a lot of really tough fights. First of all, he had a car accident. Then he came out and he had a really hard training camp to fight me. And because he said, look, man, most of the punishment that you take in a fight are not the fights, it's the training camps where you take a lot of punishment. So he had a hard training camp, then he had fought a really tough fighter in me. Then he takes time off, and he has another training camp for Manny Pacquiao, but doesn't fight Manny Pacquiao, winds up getting in there with Yordenis Ugas. And he said one of the things that had surprised him when he fought him, he's like, whenever I really let my hands go, I was able to hit Errol, and I was really surprised at how often I was able to hit Errol. And also said the same thing talking about Yordenis Ugas, but said that he really believed that there's a lot of reasons that fight could have taken place like that. And he said it could definitely be the weight. He said, look, man, he's been at that. He also said he'd been at that weight for a real long time. And, that's not easy to do. So that can definitely deplete you and could really have a problem with cause you problems in the fight. But also said, man, you can just have a really, really bad night and say, hey, because, sometimes you're able to win with a bad night. Sometimes you just have a bad night, not taking anything away from Terrence Crawford. But this is his words Terrence Crawford's a really, really good fighter, and not taking anything away from him. But yeah, Errol just did. He's like, man, he didn't look like that was the same guy or fighting at the same levels that he had before. And really, man, I don't think that is something that should not be considered when you look at Errol going into the second fight, or you look at Errol or fighters that really have kind of really brutal styles. Where they are really inflicting a lot of punishment, but they're also getting hit more. They're getting hit more because of the number of volume punches that they're throwing. That over time, man, that type of stuff can take a lot out of you, especially if you have a big car wreck like that. But the funny thing is that Danny Garcia is like, look, man, he said, no, he's not counting Errol Spence out in the second fight, because he said, look, man, it can be a totally different fight because you really could just have a very, very bad nights. And Danny Garcia also said, and this is something that I think is the case, where there's things going on with Errol Spence, or went on with things with Errol Spence Jr. in those camps that, he just doesn't want to say anything about, because he's not somebody that he really wants to make excuses. And if you guys recall, there were the things that have been reported about rib injuries, hurting his ribs, the difficulty in making weight. Personally, I look back at the fight, looked at people's analysis of the fight. Shout out to Boxing Gyms. Did analysis of the jabs and the punches that were landing for Terrence Crawford. I do think that in that particular thing, it was largely a skill issue in that fight. I can't tell you whether or not, he definitely looked like physically did not look the same, didn't look good physically. I think that's just a fair thing to say, that he didn't look good physically. And when you look at how big he is now after the fight ended, and you see how big he is, and people are putting memes out talking about looking like he looks fat. Doesn't look fat to me. He just looks like a really big guy. And I can understand how, if that's how big he is, and he's walking around for months and months at that particular size, how that could drain you, especially if you're not doing it right and your body's not getting enough nutrients, or you're keeping too much, glucose out of your body when you need that to do the type of workouts that he needs to do. But at the end of the day, man, we'll see in the rematch, and we'll see what goes on with the rest of his career. I just thought that was an interesting insight from Danny Garcia, somebody that had been in the ring with Errol Spence. And again, like I said, and I'm going to do this every once in a while, because there's just some of you people really are just kind of, I consider to be ridiculous. I say on this channel, we cover certain weight classes. I cover the heavyweights when there's some good things happening in the heavyweight division. I cover the 100, the traditional, the top half of the traditional weight classes: 147, 135, 147, 160, 160, 175, and heavyweight. And if the fighters that fall into those weight classes, there's a lot of good opportunity that I'm going to talk about those guys on video. The rest of the conversations often take place on live streams about the weight classes in between those. And if Canelo's at 168 and the weights in between them, we'll talk about those as well, 154. But that's where we keep most of our focus. So if it seems like I harp generally on one or two type of things, or three type of things going on boxing, that's just because you can't really cover everything in boxing every day and have any real depth to it in the collection of the videos that you put up. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.